All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Horizon. I'm so excited to have my friend here, Mikey Taylor, the mayor of Thousand Oaks, the founder and co-president of Commune Capital, and many other entrepreneurial ventures, right?
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey so far.
Yes, it has. And I'm really excited to unpackage it because, I mean, you're pretty active on social media.
Right.
I feel like based on some of the behind the scenes conversations we've had and what you see online, you're pretty authentic.
Right.
But like, we're going to go there today, hopefully, right? Unpackage it, let people see behind the scenes, that kind of stuff. But how are you doing? Welcome. Thanks for coming on here.
Thank you. I'm doing well. I just became mayor. I'm 4 weeks in. So there's definitely this feeling right now where the water's like right up to my mouth.
Yeah.
But it's new. So we're just adjusting and figuring out the kind of correct systems to be able to manage this. Mm-hmm. So we're testing it out now.
So those systems you're talking about, this is stuff there's some systems must already be in place, right? Within the local government that you like plug into.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's more on my end. Mm-hmm. So the city has their infrastructure. They have their staff. For me, I just added a new layer of responsibility, mm-hmm. which means time commitment that was not there last year. So I had to figure out on my end where time's going. So kind of a new priority stack.
Yeah. And
then I had to put filters in place to make sure that the people that were reaching out to me, whether that was on the city side, the business side, fit into where I was allocating my time. Right. It's time management for me.
100%. I mean, I'm always fascinated how you're not a career politician, right? No. You have not been climbing the local political ladder to become mayor.
No.
But I'm fascinated with someone who's running a business mm-hmm. with employees and like infrastructure and investors. You have all this stuff, and then you add this other thing. It's not like you leave it to go be mayor for a while.
Right.
You're operating both simultaneously.
Right.
And it also seems as if more often business leaders plugged in like that, who then add this other layer, are more successful and more connected to the people mm-hmm. than those who are only politicians and that's their only job in all that they do.
Correct.
Yeah. How do you do this?
Well, that's actually a really good point. And we could spend a lot of time just talking about politicians and how in touch they are with us, right?
Right.
But I think it is important to state that the role I have can be done with me spending time on my business. Mm-hmm. Truthfully, anything above this probably can't. Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to run for anything higher, assembly, that's a full-time job. I'm stepping away from my business. I'm going full-time there.
Yeah.
Congress, same thing. And so I think this is the peak for me to still be involved in business the way I want.
Yeah.
And that was a big decision on me even getting involved. When I wanted to get involved, I did not want to step away from my company. I love business. I am at the point in my life where I really like setting goals, accomplishing those goals, creating. I love having to figure out how to hire a team when the revenue's not there and what it takes to get there. I enjoy that too much to really step away from it completely. And so I just didn't want to do that. So I picked a role that could fit both. And then I had to get elected. So once I got elected, then it just became, okay, how do we do this well? Because the challenge you have, and here's kind of the dynamic that every entrepreneur has. I think either we're born with or our upbringing created this view in us that we can accomplish things. Mm-hmm. Anything's possible. And so we have the tendency to take on more than we can handle. And then we end up running the risk of not doing anything well. Right. So that's what entrepreneurs that feel like they can do things have to hold back. And I fall victim to that as well. Mm-hmm. And so that was
saying no. The ability to say no is not the first nature of an entrepreneur, right?
Yes, because saying no feels like you're letting go of opportunity.
Right.
Right. So what I really wanted to make sure is with my business, I am responsible for a lot. We have almost 700 investors. We are managing $352 million of AUM. There are people that have put their trust in myself and our team. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that I'm being responsible for that well. And then it went, okay, can I do this role, not sacrifice kind of the value that I'm intending to create here, and then also do this well? And so when I looked at the time commitment and what was required and then how I could apply my skills to it, I felt like I could, but I had to create a way to do it. And so what I think ends up happening is an entrepreneur, it's really easy to get stuck, or maybe the better way to say it is, it's really hard to get out of the first stage, which is like the solopreneur, right? It's, I do it all myself. I control everything, but all of your time is allocated towards just your business and there's no help.
Right.
And so a lot of times it's hard for us to get to the next level, which is delegating. It's bringing on a team. It's giving people really control in some way, which is hard for us, but that is the only way to grow.
Right.
And so thankfully I just learned that early on, and then it made it easier for me to create the right, let's call it machine, to be able to do more. It's like Elon is probably the greatest example of it.
Oh yeah. I mean,
right?
Like him or hate him. Like
he's the greatest. Yeah. Take everything out. Just look at him as the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
If he only did PayPal, that is more than almost all of the people on earth could ever do, right? It's a very small percentage of people that can achieve that. Then the fact that he's able to do SpaceX and Tesla, and he is part of all of these organizations at once. He has the same time in a day that we do.
Right.
There's no more time that he has. So he has just mastered, I think, delegating, and then he's probably the best example at focusing on priority and cutting out noise.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a better example.
Yeah, I mean, to what you just said, we all have the same amount of hours. In the last episode I recorded, I was talking with a previous business partner of mine. We had done an interview with Grant Cardone.
Oh, no way.
Right? Yeah, we interviewed him. This was a few years back, like 2000 and maybe 18.
Perfect. I'm going to send him a photo of you and I when this is over, and I'm going to say, big dog, how have I not had an interview with you?
Man, well, let's see if we can coordinate, make that happen. Or through Jared.
I'm going to send a photo to Grant, Jared, and Ryan.
Weren't you on his?
I've been on his.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to get him on mine.
You got to get him on yours.
Yeah, I have a podcast. Absolutely. I got to get Grant on.
So this is how we ended up getting him on. He posted something and was like, I'm going to be in LA. I'm doing a podcast thing. What podcasters want to be on or whatever? And then my business partner at the time, Sina, like saw it and went and hit the email that he had said to hit. And then they picked maybe 10 people. All of us had to go to, I think we were at, where were we at? A fancy hotel in Beverly Hills. We all went there. He had 2 rooms, office rooms next to each other. We set up here, they set up there. And he was going back. He did like 10 podcasts straight in an 8 or 10 hour day.
Yeah.
And that's how it ended up happening.
Yeah, so he's mastered the bulking of content 100%.
100%. So yes, we will use this and make it happen. And I would love to continue to extend the relationship.
Let's do it.
So, but when he was on, Sina had asked him, what do you do with your 168? The 168 hours in a week.
Oh, I was about to say, what's 168?
We have 100, I think it's 168.
Okay.
168. What do you do with yours? And he said, I'm rocking with 10,500 or something. He came back with a number because he's talked about scaling, and he's like, so I get things done. And he pulled up a thing and he looked at like payroll, and he's like, well, we processed like 10,000 hours or something like that over the last, period. And so he was looking at everything in the sense of the amount of hours I have in a day is essentially matched to the number of hours I can delegate out to the people I've trusted in these positions. And he just operated in a completely different sense. Like, I have as many hours as I can expand to.
That's
with
good.
More people.
That's really good.
Back to Mayor and expanding and doing all this stuff. Why did you even want to do it?
That's a good question. How this came about was it really was COVID, right? Like, COVID hit, and my wife was kind of like, okay, this is locked down. There's a lot of great things about our city. We can kind of live wherever we want. Is this where we want to live? And when she said that, my like knee jerk reaction was, oh, no way. I love this place. I can't leave here. Right. And so she started basically, and it was like a great conversation, but she was like, you know, one, I feel like we're just missing things here. Like there's so much more that we could have. And then
like what?
You know, like to kind of really go into like Thousand Oaks, right? Thousand Oaks, our challenge is kids graduate and then they leave, right? And then a percentage of them, once they get married, usually have one kid, sometimes two. Then they go, you know what? We should move back to Thousand Oaks. It's a phenomenal place to raise kids. But we have such a big gap of what I think is like, it's like the youth going into adulthood. And so because we lack that, a lot of the things that like we're looking for, amenities, things to go do, you know, places to go out, we just don't have. And so she was like, we should have that. And so, you know, now we're going back to the entrepreneur in me. I was like, well, babe, instead of us like complaining about it or looking elsewhere, why don't we get involved in creating it? And my wife looked at me and goes, yeah, okay, what does that mean? And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, well, if we're going to raise our kids here, maybe we should consider getting involved in trying to create a place where our kids would want to stay after graduation. And as I was trying to figure out what that meant, I got a call from somebody who said, hey, dude, there's a seat open on city council. Would you ever consider running? And I was like, what does that mean? And then when I started looking into it, I was like, you know what? So much of my skill set in really the last 15 years on the business side, I think would be so beneficial here. And so I decided I would run, but truth be told, the way that everything came about and how I ended up getting elected, like truthfully, I don't think I could take much credit for. Like it felt like it was so like a God move that went, this door's opening, that one's closing. This one's opening, that one's closing.
Right.
That's the only way I can explain it.
Were you asking for that? Like
as I was praying and stuff like that?
God, like close these doors, open these doors, and you felt it happening? Or was it more of a looking back? Wow.
That's a really good question. That's actually a phenomenal question. So up until that point, what my wife and I would always talk about was when we looked back at our life, we could see the areas that God was directing us. We could see the things that he had done in our life, the places that he pulled us out of and kind of moved us into. And leading up to that point, my wife and I were praying like, Lord, we want to feel you in real time. Like we felt like everything was us looking back. Like that is what we want now. Like we want to be closer with you. We want to be directed by you. We want to see you in real time. And oh my gosh, like here's the craziest thing. And look, granted, I know there's going to be people that are listening that are like, I don't believe in God. Those that do, he listens to what you ask for. And so we watched that happen. And what I basically told my wife was pregnant with number 4 at the time of us deciding if we're going to do this. My business was going through a pretty big growth spurt. And so it was demanding. And so if you look at timing from like me and my wife trying to calculate it, it made no sense. Right. Like it was very clearly, this is not the right time. And so basically what my wife and I basically prayed for is like, Lord, if this is what you're asking for, just make it apparent. And that's exactly what happened. It was like, okay, we're going to move this. This is going to open. This is where I'm going to direct you. And even going through that, it felt like I was being tested in it to really like let go of the control I was trying to grab onto and just give it to him. And then that was the outcome. Here's where I'm putting you, you know?
Now we did an interview with a guy, Neil Brewer, which awesome, like man of God, pastor, all this stuff. And he has a book that talks about it's obedience, suffering, reward.
Yeah.
Did you feel that as you were praying, asking for these doors and you're being obedient and go in this direction, then you went into like suffering period? Like, was it hard, challenging? Like,
Oh gosh. Yes. You want to go through suffering, get involved in politics. Yeah. Like really going personal. So I'll get everybody's about to get a real look of how I'm wired. So my love language, right? How I feel built up is words of affirmation, right? If my wife says, great job, I love you. Oh, that's all I need, right? All the other components of how you feel love are like a distant second for me.
Yeah.
And so that can be dangerous, right? I was a pro skateboarder for 14 years. Like getting praise from kids, you're my favorite skater, I look up to you, you're my idol. That feels good.
Right.
That can be dangerous, right? And so what I was going through really post skate career was a lot of identity crisis, purpose crisis, because I was putting all of my fulfillment in what other people thought of me, right? And so I spent from 2017 to really 22 moving out of that and trying to get in alignment to where...
5 years.
Yeah, I would say I made the biggest jump in 2017, and then 18 to 22 was more of like a refining moment. And what was happening for me personally was shifting from feeling important because people liked me to attempting to get all of my validation through my creator, and then stacking my wife and then children, and then everything else I was attempting to not be a part of the equation. And I felt like when I ran, that was really God testing that. Okay, we're going to see how far you got. And the level of attack that I got in 22 was unlike anything I had ever experienced, probably at a multiple of 10. It was gnarly. And
Attack, like verbally attacked?
Oh my gosh. Oh,
okay.
Verbally attacked, death threats. The whole nine. I've never experienced anything like that. I've never experienced, like, you know, I've been a public figure for a long time. I've had a social media following for quite some time. I have experienced people saying bad things. That's not what I'm saying, right? There's a difference between somebody saying, you're whack, I hate how you skate, you're stupid, you're greedy, all of those things. Right. That's one thing. When they start getting into a lot of the political attacks, like you're a alt-right white Christian nationalist and you're a racist, stuff like that, I had never experienced anything like that.
Are you like, you know, you're walking out of the dry cleaner and your car is like vandalized or like things like
no,
to this extreme?
I didn't deal with that. I didn't have any like physical altercations or stuff like that. It was the blowback that I was seeing online was at a different level. And then probably the culmination of it was 4 days after the fact, my campaign manager and the operator of my campaign said, hey, we didn't want to tell you this when it was happening because we have it under control, but there was a death threat. We got in contact with the chief of police. It's been handled. We just want to let you know. And that was the one for me. It was like, oh, okay, crap. This is a different game I'm playing. And then after that, I definitely started thinking about just the dynamic of, I've got, you know, millions of people that follow me online. I now have, it might just be somebody talking shit. It could be a potential risk. And I've got 4 children. I live in a community that if you wanted to figure out where I was at that point, you probably could have. Right. And so we had to start taking a little bit of different measures through that. That was new. Never experienced that before.
Was that the guy with the earbud out front when I came and got you?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that's just the...
So how do you handle that though? Like you're going through that. What did you literally do to say, I'm being attacked 10 times worse than ever in my life? You're somebody who feels love through words of affirmation. Then I would imagine you feel pain through words of defamation and the opposite.
Right.
How'd you get through it? What'd you do? So
that in that moment, the majority of it, truthfully, was my wife and I like, dude, so up until 22, like there wasn't much emotion. I wasn't very emotional at all. Like, you know, up until 22, there were probably in 2 decades, 6 instances in which like tears came out of my eyes. Right? It was like 3 kids being born, like, right? A couple of people passing away. And I go through like a 3-month sprint where it's like, I feel like my wife and I are on our hands and knees just crying all the time. And like, for what that looked like for me, a lot of it was just us leaning on, it was really leaning on the Lord going, how do I do this? Like, I can't do this without, I am not equipped for this. Mm-hmm. Like, how do I do this? And I would say that what I experienced on the other end was, number one, we were praying for really God to work with us in real time. Number two, he gave us the opportunity to really lean on him. And then 3, I got to experience what that feels like for me not to be the one driving everything and figuring it out. Like, there was a point where it felt like I was submitting and going, help me. And truthfully, like, there weren't that many times in my life where I really did that.
Right.
And that's how we did it.
It's like it takes those moments sometimes, even though we're believers and we probably have given advice to other people to surrender,
right?
You kind of have to hit that breaking point sometimes, right? Where you're like, I guess I don't have the answers. So.
Well, yeah. And I feel like you don't really get to truly experience his greatness without that.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. And then a lot has changed over the last 3 years. So, I get elected. I'm now on city council. I'm still running my business, still have the following. And that was a slow progression. It felt like the last 12 months have been something totally different. Just whether you want to view it on following people, talking good or bad, everything has been increased this last year. And so there's been some added steps of precaution that like my family had to take. And like, how do we do this right? How do we figure out like the correct protection over the kids? And, we're dealing with that in real time. I don't have all the answers yet.
Right.
I'm experiencing something new now.
Right. I mean, like, that's got to be some trial and error.
100%.
Go through it and do that. So naturally, you've talked about your faith quite a bit already, and I know you're open. Did you like grow up as a Christian, or was there?
Yeah. Just so everybody knows, this is new for me, actually. Like, I was, I became a Christian right in my teens. I think I was 13, right around there.
Okay.
And then,
so you're skating and you're being tested, because I know growing up the large population of the skate kids were kids that were looking for an outlet, right?
Yeah.
It was like that instead of gangs, or that instead of drugs. And then sometimes it was that and drugs and all these. So like you were probably around a whole mix of people that are pulling you for and against your faith and beliefs and all that, right?
The majority against.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so like really what I looked like was 13 to 18, like pretty good walk, like pretty strong in my faith. And then I turned pro at somewhere around 19, 20. And then from 20 to really 34, it felt like that was a decade plus of dilution where, I'm surrounded by people that think differently than me, that do different things. And over time, I think what I intended to do was be an example of how to live your life differently. And then by the end of it, I didn't look any different than anyone else.
Yeah.
And so that was a big bulk of my life. And then when my career ended, that's when it felt like it all came crashing down. It was like, okay, like I feel lost. I feel like I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm naturally optimistic. I'm naturally a happy person. It felt like all of that went away. And it felt like the foundation was just ripped out from under me. Right. And it probably feels similar because now that I know this, I speak to so many of them. A lot of people, when they lose their career or they retire, go through this, right? It usually happens though in your 60s. And so I was faced with this challenge at really 34. I was married. My wife and I have been married 7 years at this point. I had 2 little girls, and there was a breaking point. And so I felt like I was in a valley and I had a crossroad in front of me. And it was either this is where I'm going to be or I'm going to climb out of it. And in attempting to climb out, the only thing that I was telling myself at that point is I need to create a foundation that can't be broken. That was all my thought process could handle at that point. I had a foundation. It was taken from me. Now I'm lost. I don't want to feel this again. So how do I create a foundation that can't be taken? And I had to answer questions that were kind of scary to answer. Like, what is the whole point of this? Why am I here? Like, what is the reason for me being on this planet? Right. And so that's what really brought my faith back into the equation. Like, okay, why am I here? It's either an accident or I was created. Those are really the only two choices you have. I went towards creation.
Right.
Okay, if I was created, who was I created by? Okay, I think this is the reason. Okay, if I'm created by you, what are you calling me to be?
Right.
And then it probably was, a few years of me trying to do that correctly. And then I would say 2020 was like a big culmination of that. And then I would say over the last 4 months, that's been the next jump.
Right. Last 4 months, I think the timing is what I'm about to say, but so you posted something that hit home to me when Charlie Kirk died. And, I've seen you've posted pictures with him. You've called him friend. I don't know how close you guys were, but like, what really happened there that like woke you up to feeling whatever this next level of authenticity and wanting to be maybe more purposeful or less appeasing to others? Or I don't want to quote you exactly what you said. You posted a pretty strong video.
Yeah, so that I posted a video and it went viral. And just off of the thousands of messages I got, I now know that I wasn't alone in that feeling. And basically what happened for me is when Charlie was killed, it impacted me more than I ever even thought something like that could. Right? Like, I've had pain in my life. I've had friends pass away in my life. That was different. And I think what it was, and so, if you don't believe in God, you're going to hear this and go, what the heck is this guy talking about? So for Christians, we believe in God, we believe in Jesus, and we believe in the Holy Spirit, right? And the Holy Spirit is really what we view as kind of the helper, the one directing us through kind of life. And what I felt like when that happened was the Holy Spirit convicting me. And what it felt like was the Lord saying, I'm putting you at another decision to be made. And it was, you're either going to fear me or you're going to fear man. And what happened really from 22 to, a few months ago was I become city council. I experienced getting blowback, and you naturally start to get strategic on your decisions. And so I think what happened to me is I started getting so strategic with what I did and what I said because I was ultimately trying to control the outcome.
Right.
And so, dude, I felt like the Lord was saying, stop. Like, stop trying to control everything. Like, I want you to fear me and me alone. And this is the point in which I'm making you choose. And like in that, like, dude, when I tell you, like, I was convicted in that, I felt like I had to repent of that. And then I just made that video. I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to say this. And it went viral. It went fully viral. The next 5 days, I did no work. There was zero work to be done. I sat in my DMs for 5 days responding to everybody.
Wow.
And the messages were so overwhelming. And it was, I'm going through the same thing. I feel the same thing. So what I do know, I was not alone in that moment.
Yeah.
And then if you look at what's happened since then, I mean, you're going to churches now. The attendance at churches have seen such a huge spike, and it's holding, right? There's so many people that are going, what the heck is going on? And I think when you start asking the question, what is going on, you're trying to find truth.
Right.
And so I think that's what's happening right now.
Yeah. I mean, with what you said, trying to find truth, Charlie and his message and speaking truth and getting out there and being willing to do that, and then him dying doing that, I think resonated to be like, even if I'm not going to go do that,
right?
What's my version,
right?
As a believer, like how do I push my boundary further than it is right now.
Correct.
And stand up. And it felt like there's no one's going to replace him.
Right. No.
And what he was doing.
Yeah.
But that millions of people looked and said, let me push my boundary. And then that boundary pushes, and it's that kind of a ripple, across the whole world of people doing that and then seeking truth. And then I think I've heard many stories of people who are like, maybe there's something in what that guy was saying. Because he was shut up. Yeah. Because, there was such an opposition against him that maybe there is some truth, and people who never were really seeking started to seek. Yeah,
100%. 100%. Yeah. And I think like I've had time to really break it down now. And, I think like so I knew him personally.
Before like his
I met him. He was starting to come up. I met him in probably 2019 or so. And like there were so many parts of my life that he influenced. Mm-hmm. And so like there was that part. He was a father with young children part. He was speaking online. There was, what all of this means for the time that we all live in as Americans. Mm. All of that hit me at one time.
Yeah.
And so, even for my kids, like after that happened, like dude, a month after, my kids were in tears when I walked out of the door, and they don't totally understand the difference in like him or what I'm doing or others. But my daughters started to become scared that I wasn't coming home every time I left the house. Wow. And even my daughter mentioned, she's like, why does dad have to talk about God now? Why is he talking about his faith online? My youngest daughter was like, why can't he just talk about golf? Because she is associating that if you speak about these certain things, there's risk that comes with it.
Right.
And so like, that's scary. I'm not going to tell you it's not. Like, that's scary. And so I think that's just the point that I got to in all of this was, what am I living my life for?
Right.
Right? Like, am I living my life to glorify my creator? And if so, I've got to give him the control of my life. Mm-hmm. And I don't want that to happen. Like hopefully it doesn't, but like at the end of the day, it's his will.
Right.
And so I think that's where I'm at now. That is the potential consequence of this. But we have a lot of examples throughout history of that happening. And then we have examples where it doesn't. So I hope that doesn't happen, of course.
Right.
But
I mean, I would say there's probably more examples of it not happening than happening.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, what I want is when my life is over and I'm in front of him, I want him to look at me and say, well done, good and faithful servant. That's what I want.
Right.
And so that's how I'm trying to live my life. And I'm not perfect in that. Like, I want everybody to know this. Like, I have to work really hard every day at me not getting in the way. Like that is a daily struggle for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's everyone's daily struggle, right? Is like, I do the things I don't want to do, and I don't do the things I want to do. Yeah. Like this is true across the board. So I'm interested in your daughter. How old is your youngest daughter who said this?
The one who said this is going to be 11 on Wednesday.
Okay. So I have an 11-year-old, 11 and a half, let's say. So I know that the mindset there. How do you handle that? Like, is this an opportunity to then say, God's opening a door for me to go and create depth in this with this 10, almost 11-year-old? Like, how do you guys navigate what you said?
That's a really good question. That's exactly. So how this happened, my two older girls, so 13 and 11 now, were with my wife, sharing this with my wife in tears. And so what my wife said to them is, what do you think God would want of your dad? Do you think he would want your dad to be sharing these things? Or do you think he just wants him talking about golf? Mm-hmm. And so that was a good opportunity, I think, for her to share with them and them to answer, yeah, I think he would want that. And then, now it just becomes us really, one thing that's difficult being a parent is that our kids don't really listen to us. They watch us.
Right.
Right. So things are caught, not taught. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important that the things that we're telling our kids, they're actually seeing us live out.
Right.
And so that's what we're attempting to do. It's like, I don't want to just tell my kids, like, this is what I believe. I want them to like see my wife and I in the word. I want them seeing me out speaking it.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that's going to be the only real example of me being all in, you know?
Yeah. I think that if you don't do that, then you have a recipe for like resentment, right? And the calling out of hypocrisy and a lot of things that happen in the church. Earlier, when you described Thousand Oaks as this place where it's great for raising families and then people graduate and then they leave and then they have a family and then they circle their way back, it actually made me think of most churches. I think most churches, in my experience growing up, you have youth group, and then there's usually a massive disconnect.
Yeah.
And kids kind of go do their own thing when they're 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever. And then eventually they find their way sort of circling back.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think there's a disconnect between the youth and the older crowd that like can be improved. It's not everywhere.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is just, I think, being authentic and people seeing us live out. And then also like we try to be open and have conversations, not just about like good things, but bad things and struggles, and have like, obviously not every conversation is appropriate to have with kids and things like that, you know, but talking about things like money and challenges that may be with that, or thinking around that, or a family dynamic and why you're doing things and not doing, like including children in this, I don't think is wrong, but it's sort of taboo. Like there's a lot of people who don't, you're a kid and you're not part of that table.
100%.
So anyway, kudos to you for
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So earlier you talked about when your career ended, you went through this like identity crisis type of thing, right? How did it end? Did you say it's time, I'm going to walk out on top and like I'm, champion, and you leave with hanging your gloves up, or did it end on you without you controlling it?
Yeah. So what I have learned is how God works in my life is that he pulls me out of situations fast.
Okay.
And that's uncomfortable. It's still uncomfortable for me today, but my idea was that I would be able to step away from skateboarding on my terms. I think that's all of our goal, right? Oh yeah, I get to leave on my terms. And so what I thought was I would skate for 3 to 5 more years, and then we would do, I was 34.
Okay.
So I had a big enough name and I'd been doing it long enough. I felt like I could probably get close to 40, right? So I was like, I'll do 5 more years. I'll have a retirement party. Great job, Mikey. Send you off. And what happened was I had a contract with a shoe company and a clothing company. That was one. It was a company called DC. And I had about 2 years left on that contract. And for like pro athletes, our security is in the length of contract we have. Right. So all I know is 2 years I have, and then hopefully I get another deal. And if that's 3 years, okay, I got 3 more years. And so I thought I had 2 years, and basically they dropped me and then said, hey, if you want to sue us, then go ahead. And so I had a decision to make. It was, do I go through that nightmare of the legal process? Do I try to find another sponsor and prolong this, or is this it? And I think it was it. That was it. I didn't want to go through a legal battle with a large corporation.
Right.
And
how much did they owe you? I'm just curious, like what?
Oh, that's a good question. If you're including my base and my royalty, it was probably close to $1 million, I bet, including all of it. Total
over the remainder of that 2-year contract.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're talking about royalties. These are like on your signature shoes.
Yeah, I had a signature shoe, and I had a signature
showed
clothing
up
line.
In your mail the other day,
yeah,
right?
somebody brought me an old pair of my shoes.
So you make a royalty. What's a royalty go for? I know it might vary, but like on a per pair of shoes, what are?
Typically, it's $5 a shoe.
Okay. Is
usually where it lands, and then depending on the clothing piece, because it can vary in cost. Let's call it out $1.50. Maybe $2 a unit.
Okay. Is that the same too with like when you have a signature deck and wheels and all these other things? It's all like,
yeah, signature deck was right around $2 a deck.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you usually have to sell more than your base. So it's similar to like a comp plan for a sales guy or a sales girl. You got to sell more than, and then you get the upside.
I see.
Yeah.
And then selling it, are you actually selling it? Like you're promoting it? Like, are you looking at this like we got to do more demos? I got to do this. Like, is it like that? Or are you just skating and helping people?
Really good question. I didn't have to physically sell my shoe. So I didn't have booths. I was like, here's my shoe, buy it. I had a sales team with that organization.
Yeah.
And then my mission was get people to know who I am, get people to connect with me, get people to want to buy from me. And then that mechanism was already at place with the company. And so, it was, how can I do more demos? How can I get more photos in magazines? How can I show up at more places? How can I build my brand?
Yeah.
Which then had a direct correlation with units sold.
And was like social media a thing yet at this point?
It was. So I was one of the early skaters on social.
Right.
So when social hit, skaters, like for anybody who's not a skater, in the 90s and 2000s, skaters did not promote themselves. Like skaters are actually like pretty humble in that regard. Like talking about yourself was not normal.
Well, and then you had these like mystique people, right? Like there was a period of time as a kid, I was like, does Tom Penny really exist?
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Like, is he a real person?
Yeah, that's right.
Like you never see him. He sees his eyes under a beanie this big.
Yeah.
And then nobody knows where he's at for 2 years or something. And then a video comes out. Like it's this crazy.
You had the mysterious figures. Guy Mariano was one of them, right?
Yeah.
But for me, what I saw when social hit was my model to success when I was skating was to try to outperform. So if every skater was putting out a video part once every 5 years, I tried to put one out every 2 years. If everyone had a photo, in a magazine once a quarter, I was trying to have one once a month.
Yeah.
And so it was just like outperform and outwork. But I ran into a position where there were only so many magazines and I couldn't get a feature in a magazine, but I had the photos, or I had no more sponsors that would put out video parts. So when social hit, I was like, oh my gosh, I now have a mechanism to put all of this, work I've been doing out there faster.
Right.
And so I got all in on social. And in the beginning, my sponsors were uncomfortable with it. Like they did not like what I was doing on social. And so it was there. I was early. They were uncomfortable,
In the end, it paid off, right? Like
in the end, it paid off. But a big part of that is I started my first business in the last 4 years of my career. And so I started using social media to promote the business as well. And then that promotion of the business was such a massive factor to why we grew. And then we ended up selling that business and we did well.
Which I want to get into that before we transition from the skating stuff. When you're skating and you're talking about putting in the work and all that stuff, were you looking at your career when you became pro and doing it like, growing up, there was always like skate park skaters and then like street skaters. And so I'm just curious your mindset. You have the X Games and that stuff is like park style skating. And then you have your purists that are like, if I'm not being chased by security somewhere and we're not like skating stuff that's in the real world, then it's not real skating. Did you have any thoughts around that? And what did you think of this park versus and contests and all that stuff?
Yeah. So I started off as a purist. I started off streets only, didn't like skate parks. Like that is what I viewed skateboarding as.
Right.
But skateboarding changed. And so there started becoming more and more skate parks that were spun up. It started becoming a thing for you to actually include skate park type of footage or on social. And so I just moved with the times.
Right.
And then contests started becoming a thing towards the tail end of my career, which I started skating. So I didn't skate a contest for like the first 10 years of my career. I started skating them on the tail end just because they became more acceptable.
Right. Like X Games and
X
SLS
Games and SLS. Yeah, correct.
Did you enjoy one more than the other?
No, I didn't like contests. Actually, no. I liked, what I did like is I liked the prep into it, and I liked the fact that I was nervous before going, but I was not naturally a contest guy.
Okay. Now, having been a top competitor, both street and in contests, what do you think of skating now? I mean, I look at skateboarding now and I'm like, it's a freaking video game. These people, like some of these kids are doing tricks. It's like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater in real life.
Yeah.
Do you look at it the same way and go like, how is this even possible?
Yeah, 100%. I remember when I was a kid, I was probably 18, and a bunch of my friends and I were skating at Beverly Hills High School. There was a 9-stair rail that we used to always skate. And at that point, there were some older pros that were there that must have done some type of like TV deal. So there was a whole film crew with them, and they were out filming. And we got there, and we were skating that handrail like we were skating for fun. We're just doing every trick we could possibly do on it. And those guys were like, oh, what do you want me to do? You want me to lip slide the rail? And I remember hearing the camera crew go, why didn't we get those kids? Right?
Huh.
And I realized it at that point. I was like, okay, we are the new generation, and what we're capable of doing, the older generation isn't.
You're pro already at this point.
I am.
Okay.
And I'm starting to come up. But you could just see it. There was such a big shift happening with my generation. That has not only happened, it feels like the progression has 10x'd from what you're seeing the current generation do from when I was involved. It's almost hard to comprehend what they're able to do consistently. It's crazy.
It's insanity.
It's insanity.
Like, I don't know all of their names. I just Instagram. I like see stuff, and I'm just like, I could do that on a remote.
It's insane. It's insane.
So, who was your favorite skater growing up? Like that you looked up to, and you're like, they inspired you to want to pursue skating and be a pro.
Eric Costin was my favorite pro. So he's always been my favorite pro. And then probably Jamie Thomas was my example of what I was attempting to recreate in some ways.
So like leap of faith, you wanted to do
No,
that?
I didn't. It actually, like I was a big fan of the way Jamie skated, of course, the chief, but I really liked the other things he was doing in skateboarding. I love that he owned a business. I love that he was filming skaters. So like I got a video camera because of Jamie. Okay. Because in one of the videos I saw him filming Adrian Lopez in like a B-roll shot. And I was like, Jamie films also? I just thought it was so cool that a skater could do more than skateboarding. And so I think Eric was my like example of like, you're the best and I want to be like you skateboarding, which I never could be. And then Jamie was the example of, Jamie was the first look of me wanting to be more than a skater.
Like entrepreneurial aspect.
Yeah, I just love the idea that like a skater could do more than just skateboard.
And eventually you became friends with them?
Yeah.
And how was that? Was there like any starstruckness when you first got to like skate with them? And what's the age gap also with
between me and Jamie?
Or both of them, I guess. Jamie's older than Eric Costin.
Yeah, probably 10 years, somewhere around 10 years, okay. I bet. Tom Penny and Guy Mariano. Well, no. The first time I saw Eric Costin, I was starstruck. I was pro when I met Tom Penny, and I was starstruck. And then Guy Mariano, I had been pro almost 10 years, and I was starstruck. Those three figures were I was nervous and uncomfortable. Yeah. Everyone else, like, not to take it away from you guys, it was okay. Those three were just different.
Yeah, that's awesome, though. It's cool to... I'm just listening, and I'm like, I remember watching 411 videos and like all these things. And something that happened recently when Chris Jocelyn got the Skater of the Year, Trey flipped El Toro. Mm-hmm. It's insane watching it. But I saw these comments, and people started talking about how they were upset the way it came out like on social media, and how being kids, you would wait for the video, and then you'd go and all your friends would come over, you'd be at a skate shop, or like there was this whole thing, and that's all been diluted and stuff. Do you feel that at all, that like the old core kind of feeling and camaraderie around skating is like a little bit like commoditized and just internetized now?
Yes, of course I feel that, but if I'm being honest, I think it's just us old dogs that feel that. Yeah. Because we remember the time where we would be blown away by seeing the clip in the video.
Right, and rewinding it.
And rewinding it. That's just not, it's not how the world works today.
No, it's the same thing as
the kids don't care. The kids want to see it on social. Then they want to see the clip.
Right. And it's very similar, I think, to like my son's not ever going to know what it's like to get a CD, you know, and like go and then like listen to it over and over and over and look at the book and all that stuff. It's just like those times.
100%. That's right.
Well, thanks for getting like transparent on the breakup of skating.
Yeah.
So that business you were talking about was Sane Archer, right?
Yep.
And you guys had a good exit there. Was it intended to exit? Like you were going to do this and build it and exit it?
Yeah. So we didn't have enough money to start the company ourselves. So we had to go raise money. And what I learned very quickly, and anyone who's never raised money before will learn this, the first question you're going to get hit with is, how do I make my money back?
Right.
Like if you're taking money from someone else, they want to know how they're getting paid. And so you have to get really clear on how you're going to achieve that. And with business, you have two ways of doing it. You either create a business that cash flows, and the cash flow from that business is going to pay your investors a dividend, or you're going to sell the business. Or it can be a combination, but those are really your only two levers. And so because of what was happening in the craft beer industry, there was a lot of growth happening. And a lot of the big corporations, Anheuser, Miller Coors, Constellation, they were starting to buy because they were attempting to build craft breweries on their own and they weren't having success in it. Right. So you started seeing the shift where they were like, okay, we'll just buy the ones working. And so we felt like there was a window where you could do this, but we were concerned that once all those big players stopped buying, all of the values went down and then the potential exit went away. And so because of that, we decided that we were going to build it to sell. And so our whole model was growth. And so we launched and, we hit the ground running and then we raised more money to grow. And then we
how many of you were there?
I had two other partners, Josh Landon and Paul Rodriguez. And then we launched the company. I think we had a team of 6. So we had a designer, we had a brewer, head of our operations, and then we started scaling. And I think when we sold, we had maybe 60 employees, 55, 60 employees towards the end.
You said you didn't have enough money to start it the way it needed to be. Did you put any money in at the beginning?
Yeah, we all put in like the startup capital.
Yeah.
And then we raised money so that we could buy the system.
Right.
Like what you need to brew beer is expensive.
What was the startup capital to get this thing to where you're like, okay, we're all putting in and go? Like,
the startup capital was, I think, 100. It was either 150 or 200,000
per person.
Total.
Okay.
Yeah, that got us to the point of being able to really raise money.
Right.
And then we had a business plan where if we raised 1.5, we had a business, but 2.5 is what we wanted.
And then did you look at craft beer as like, hey, we like craft beer, we should start our own thing or something, or like an organic thing? Or did you guys all come together and go, we got to do something outside of skating and go look at, analyze businesses and say craft beer is the place to go? Like,
it was a little of both.
Okay.
We wanted to do something outside of skateboarding. And then basically what happened is Josh was managing some surfers. And one of the surfers that he was managing got approached by either a tequila brand or a vodka brand or something like that. And they wanted to sponsor him. And this surfer, his name was Taylor Knox, super fit guy.
Very familiar.
And so Josh mentioned him. He's like, hey man, alcohol just doesn't make sense. I could probably get behind beer, but alcohol doesn't make sense. And that him just saying that actually ended up turning into, hey, what about beer? Is there an opportunity to do beer? It's a growing industry. Could we sponsor athletes? And then it formed into eventually a plan.
And then who bought you guys?
Miller Coors.
And what did that look like when they buy you? You're just out, or did you have to stay on board and run it for a while? Was there like a exit kind of thing?
Good question. We had, I think it was 3 years. And so they bought 90% of our business. And then the remaining 10% was going to be closed 3 years from the first purchase. And then it was hurdle based. Okay. So we hit certain hurdles. We could make more. We don't, it'll be less. So the back end had a sliding scale to it.
And you had a minimum amount you're getting though, right?
We got
was a cash deal?
Yeah, so basically they agreed upon the purchase price and then they bought 90% of it at that purchase price.
I see.
So we all got, myself and all of the investors, a windfall of cash.
Okay.
And then,
can you share, what did the company sell for?
Okay, so I might be off on this number because I'm trying to calculate what happened on the back end, but I think it was roughly between 65 and 75, somewhere around there.
Okay. So from 250, no, 100, what did you say it was? 250 all in the beginning?
Well, money? Including the investment to get it launched, it was 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you had serious multiples there.
I think
That's pretty good.
I think our investors, I think it was right around 14x, 12 to 14x their investment. It was awesome.
In 5 years.
A total of 5, it was a 14x.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Great numbers.
That was awesome. Yeah, that was really cool.
That sets you up very well to be able to then say, we're going to raise money again for something else.
Correct.
The bulk of the rest of our conversation's got to be around commune and like what you're doing now, right? Like why did you how did this come about? I know that you personally were into finance as like an individual, and I think many people have heard your story of having an advisor who gave you smart with all this stuff, right? But like, it's kind of a big deal that you want to go create a real estate fund. I mean, I'm an advisor. There's funds we sell and stuff. If I were to line everybody up who's created in all these companies, like, you don't fit the mold.
No,
you don't look like any of them, sound like any of them. Your history doesn't look like any of them, really. Yeah. So, like, how did you decide that's the next venture?
Yeah, there's so much truth in that. I was at dinner about a month ago with a guy. His name's Frank Foster. Runs a big single family office in Santa Barbara. He's been a mentor of mine for a long time, and he said that to me. He said, you're kind of the outcast with everything you do. Like, you don't fit the mold. You somehow sneak in the side door, and that's what I am. How it started, basically, because I chose being a pro skateboarder, and I didn't go to college. I was making some good money early on, and I ultimately had to figure out how to put myself in a position where I wasn't reliant on employers or others to make money, because I wasn't sure how I was going to make money after skateboarding. The 19-year-old me who tells my parents I'm not going to college and I'm going to go give this a shot, and then I start making some money. It was natural, I think, for me to go, I'm making money because I know how to kickflip. How does that apply for the rest of my life? And so with good guidance and people really filling me up with knowledge and help, I was able to learn the game. And the game I played was get as much money out of my income and savings into assets. Because I had this view that the more ownership, the more assets I owned, the less reliant I was on others to make money. And so I did 10 years of basically living like I was broke to maximize dollars that went into retirement accounts, stock market, real estate, anything that would help me get to freedom.
Right.
And then I started a business and I learned a new component of it. Number one, okay, I actually have a talent that goes beyond riding a skateboard.
Right.
And number two, I got to experience what an investment full circle goes like as me as the operator.
Right.
And so when that ended, I was in a position where I was 34 and I was financially free.
What's financially free to you? How do you define it?
Yeah, so financially free means that you have enough income coming in from investments that can cover your lifestyle. So there's probably a bunch of ways you can look at it. I don't have to work for 20 years and I'm okay. Like, it just basically means you don't have to go work to make money. You can survive without working.
Right. Now that the ability to be financially free and the relationship between the amount of assets and the amount of cost of lifestyle are very relevant.
100%.
Right? Someone could have had the exact same amount of assets you had and not be financially free if they were living 3 times the cost of lifestyle. Right?
Yes.
And the reverse, somebody could have, it's all relevant. And I think a lot of people, like when we're talking to clients, they don't always understand the
1,000,000%. There's actually something really important to cover here, because there's something happening right now. It's called the Great Millennial Career Crisis, right?
Okay.
And for your millennial, our generation, there are more high income earners that are millennials than any other generation in the history of America. And yet the majority of that group feels financially stuck. They feel like they have nowhere to move. And I think it's a function of, number one, we focus almost entirely on income. We make this money. And then number two, we naturally increase our expenses, right? We start having kids. Well, that's a new cost. We want to get a new house. That's a new cost. Kids are playing sports. That's a cost. We think they're going to go pro. Now they have coaches. And before you know it, every single dollar you make is now going completely to sustain your lifestyle.
Right.
And then you just become like, it's like you're on a treadmill and you have no way to move. And so what I discovered, because I was a skater who was scared about life afterward, I was in a position where I was making more money and not increasing my lifestyle so that I could get ownership.
Right.
And then after it, I got to experience the benefits of it. So one easy calculation you can do is, how much do you want to make per year? And then use a very conservative model, 5% yield. Okay, how much do I have to have in assets that will pay me 5% to then pay myself the desired income? You want to make 150 grand a year, you're going to need about $3 million invested. And what helps with that is once you know the end goal, it helps you actually plan the attack to get there.
Right.
And so I just had somebody come into my life early and show me how to do that. And then it was just me following the plan and sticking to my discipline.
How much of that plan was created by that person? This was a financial advisor.
He was,
right?
yeah.
So how much of your plan was crafted by them and you just following instruction versus you crafting the plan, having the ideas, where to invest, put the money, that kind of stuff?
So in the beginning, it was entirely them.
Okay.
It was, this is what we're doing. Cool. And then as I started learning more, I wanted more influence. And so it probably, if I was looking at a 12-year window, I would say the first 4 to 5 years was entirely them. The next 5 years was a hybrid. And then now I'm at the point where it's almost, it's basically entirely me. Yeah.
How important do you think it is for somebody who's making really good money to accept direction from someone else until they can actually steer that ship on their own?
That's a really good question. I think it's going to be dependent on the individual. So what I think is very valuable for everyone is having a second set of eyes on what you're doing. There is so much value there because when times are just like medium, okay, that's a little bit easier. When times are good, it's really easy for us to get, over our skis.
Yeah.
And then when times are bad, it's very easy for us to make emotional decisions. So I actually think having a second set of eyes on things during the good and bad, that's where the real value is. And then you got to kind of figure out where you land in the spectrum. For me, and just so you guys know, real estate, I control. It's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
So any real estate investment I'm making, it's going to be with me and my firm. If I'm going to invest elsewhere, I am not doing that myself. I am looking for someone else to be the expert because I don't want to sacrifice my time in that. So where I'm at, I don't need to rely on my advisor to bring me opportunity. I have enough opportunity coming my way and secondarily, I know how to do due diligence on people as well. So I'm just finding the people. If I want to make an investment in tech, okay, who are the people that I want to invest in? And I'm investing passively. If I want to make an investment in private equity, I'm doing it passively. The advisor component for me is almost the hub for all of it. They just help me kind of keep everything as a well-oiled machine. And then I do planning with them. And, they're the ones that help me bring my tax guy in. And, they are the glue in some regard. So that's for me. Now, there's other people. Maybe you don't have a ton of deal flow coming your way. Maybe you don't know how to do due diligence on projects or individuals. Well, then outsource that to the advisor.
Right.
I think it just matters on, do you have deal flow and do you have the expertise to underwrite it?
Right. And I think that there's a big sector of people who are making good money, especially if they're entrepreneurs, where it's like a bandwidth thing. It's not like they're not smart enough that they couldn't figure out how to do it, but there's not enough time to dedicate to do it, to not take away from the thing that's really, your ability to, how do I say this? It takes quite some time for someone to accumulate enough assets to outperform what you can actually produce as an individual.
Yeah.
And so double down, I believe, double down on that.
Right.
If you can keep increasing the income and partner with someone who understands all of this, unless you don't want to spend the time on that and you want to begin to learn the other, or eventually this supersedes what you can do on your own.
100%. Yeah. And I would say, I bet 15 to 20% of my investors are exactly what you just said. Mm-hmm. They try to do something else and they realize that their time is better spent on their business or the thing that's driving the majority of their income. Mm-hmm. And then they go, okay, get rid of that asset. I'm going to move into a passive position on stuff like this. We have a good amount of people that go through that experience and then course correct. Yeah.
You said you were a scared skater, right?
Yeah.
Scared of the future.
Yeah.
Why do you think more athletes are not like thinking forward like that? Because I think almost every person who becomes an athlete knows that like you have the shortest career of any career option you could pick, right? You got to stay healthy, relevant. There's a lot that goes into it. And I don't know what the average length is of a career of like a skater versus an NBA player or different sports like that. But why do you think not as many athletes are scared of that next step and do not come out of these short contracts so far ahead? Because in most sports, they make enough money.
Yeah.
You could make it happen.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think if we're talking conventional sports, average span across all sports has got to be 4 to 7 years, probably somewhere between then. And I think most of them go, I'll probably go the distance. So I'll probably go 7, 8, 9. And if I make it there, the amount of money that I'm going to have, I'll be good. And then what most people don't factor in is they get cut at 4.
Right.
And then the $3 million they made isn't enough to sustain the lifestyle. And then they run out. And so I think that's probably one component. I think number 2, it's a scary thing to plan for. Like you're young, coming up in your prime, and you're now going, this whole thing's going to end. And what am I going to do next? You don't really want to go through that exercise because it's kind of shitty. Like it doesn't feel good.
No, I can imagine.
And so I think most people avoid it. And then some listen. Some do have guidance. I think there is a shift that's happening where it is actually acceptable now and kind of cool for you to be an athlete that's an investor. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully that carries on, but you need the right person with the right message getting in front of these kids when they're young. Mm-hmm.
So you put out a lot of messaging that I think a lot of kids at a younger age are taking on. You've built how many followers across your platforms?
Somewhere between 3-4 million.
Okay. That's quite a few people who are listening to what you're saying. Was there any, when you decided you're going to start building around finance, was there any, imposter syndrome type of thing, around talking about money and sharing all these concepts? And because you didn't have, a formal education on that. So, how did that feel?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Not that you need a formal education, but you know what I mean?
No,
You're coming from a background.
I used to get that all the time. You can't speak on this. You're not a CFP. You're not allowed to talk on this. I used to get that all the time.
You probably still get it.
100%. Well, you know what? Not as much as in the beginning. It was way more in the beginning.
Right.
I think the amount of assets that we have now kind of hurt.
No, you probably get it from people who don't fully know what you're doing, right?
That's true.
But I would imagine in the beginning, they're like, skater guy, what are you doing?
That's right. So I would say what's weird is I didn't have imposter syndrome when I was talking about financial principles online because I knew what I was saying was true.
Right. Okay.
What I actually wrestled with was in my business, being comfortable being the outcast or the outsider. That one took some time. And so I remember one meeting very vividly. We were looking at working with a developer, and my team walked into the meeting with his, and he had his attorney, and I was the last one into the meeting. And so everyone's basically in suits. And I walked in, I must have walked in with like a hoodie on and some cargos. And I sit down, and you could just tell the way they spoke to me, it was, you must be like the assistant kid that's here to take notes. And I felt that, like, as the meeting's going, I'm like, what do I do? Like, am I supposed to just sit down? I feel insecure. Like, and there was this one moment where they pressed us on what we were doing. What is this thing you're doing with California real estate and social media? Like, California, this doesn't work. And I just felt it was like, it's now or never, you know? And so I stood up and just went. And I basically painted my vision, and I watched what happened afterward. They went, what the hell just happened? And then how they spoke to me after that was a completely different thing. We are so sorry. Oh my gosh, that was insane. Tell me more. And so what I learned from that was, people are going to have a view of me that is naturally lower than where I am, right? They're going to have an expectation, which is dumb Skeeter kid that's not prepared and is stupid. That's the bar that first impression lands at. And I started looking at it as a strategic advantage. If they set the bar down there, I don't even have to really outperform to blow their minds.
Right.
But if I'm actually able to go far beyond even maybe them, oh my gosh, I've got an opportunity here. And so I started leaning in on that. And then I started perfecting it. And it happened even recently. Like, we were looking at working with a very, very, very large group. Very. And the principal was like, I want to meet with this guy. And so I sat down with him. And within 6 minutes, he's like, hey, we're good. We can work together.
Right.
You know, so it's like, that is the opportunity in front of me. I could have viewed that as what's holding me back.
Yeah.
This is what they think of me. I'll never be more. I've just learned how to flip it.
Or a lot of people, if they try to mold to, you know, where they're going, right? Yeah. They're like, okay, I'm going to dress up in a suit and I'm going to have the padfolio and I'm going to look like them. But you don't get that wow factor that you got when you do that.
That's right.
Or you come in and you set yourself up really where optically they're like, oh, he's got it all together. If you have one little mistake or anything, right, you like fall below because you set the bar so high.
Yeah, that's right. And it's interesting because that's how investing works as well. Like, it's very comfortable for us to invest where everyone else is,
right? Because
we typically find comfort in the herd.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing it, so it has to be right. But that's usually a scary place to be as an investor. Like, if you're talking about opportunity, the greatest opportunity is usually where no one's looking or where everyone's running from, right? Warren Buffett has a ton of quotes on the relevance of this. And so I think that was important as well. Like, if I'm not comfortable investing that way, why am I attempting to look like everyone else in my day-to-day life? Like, be different, be okay with being different. And that's the thing that allows me to separate from others.
So tell me how you're using all of this and break down like the housing problem, housing crisis. So I think nationally there's a shortage, right? And then you've got California as a whole nother thing. And you guys have used what most people look at as a problem as an opportunity.
Correct.
Right? So we'll see if we can fit all this in and break it down.
Let's do it. So I want to be clear with this one because I don't want to use this as like validation on what I'm doing. So I want to qualify this. I know that God put me in this role. And it seems like this might be a factor of it, but I don't know yet. So I'm still working that part out. But I have found myself in such a unique position that I'm sitting on really both sides of the table that the two extremes are arguing from. It's very apparent housing is an issue. It's very important that the American dream and the pathway to it, which was so clear for us, is very murky for the next generations. And so the question becomes, how do you solve it? And the two extremes you have right now is, on one side, the solution needs to be the government. The government needs to get more involved. There needs to be more regulation. There needs to be rent freezes. There needs to be this body stepping in to solve it, right? The greatest example of this right now is probably Mayor Mandami in New York.
Yeah.
That's that side. And then you have the other side, which is the private market. Get out of my way. Cut the red tape. Let us build. I promise you, we will build too much. And when we build too much, the whole thing comes crashing down. Now real estate's affordable.
Right.
So those are the two camps. The reality is, if the private market wants to work entirely without the government, that's impossible. The local policymakers are in charge of infrastructure. You have to work with this body, right? The other challenge, if this body, the government, comes in and tries to control everything, America is no longer America. There is not a good outcome with either. So really the question becomes, how do these two parties get aligned? What is the correct alignment between the policymaker and the investor to bring housing onto the market? And what's been interesting is I started speaking about this a lot on social media, and now I'm being invited to housing conferences all over talking about what that path is. And basically what happened is I discovered a policy that is a really good example of what I'm trying to create, which is get rid of the friction on the front end, make it easier to get projects online, make it cheaper to get them built. And in return, we will build housing that is more affordable, that the everyday American can be a part of. And the reason why you need that incentive is because with how expensive everything is, if you sell it for less or rent it for less, your property is now valued less than the cost to build. So an investor is not going to take the risk if there's not even a dollar to make. It's a guaranteed loss.
Right.
And so on the company side, we are now putting dollars into that policy that reduces friction, that allows us to basically build housing for almost half the cost. And then in turn, we're now charging way less in rents, and we're able to make our investors a return. So kind of where I'm sitting right now, I think this is the model that can be used nationally on how to get housing online for the everyday American. And simultaneously, I'm trying to prove out the model with my own dollars with our investors to now use that to the other cities and states as, guys, this works. And here's the proof of concept.
So now, in one side, you talk about the American dream, which is the house, the white picket fence, the dog, the family, like that picture.
Right.
And then you're talking about housing, affordable housing, right? I feel like they sort of conflict with each other.
Okay.
Right? In the sense that a lot of the building that is going on are apartments.
In our state.
Here, right? So not that we don't need them, and people need dwellings, right? Like a place to live, and they need to be affordable. And by putting more units, you can drive costs down. So I get that part. But how do you see that adding to the final ownership? Because
really good.
There's this, our generation and the next one, there's this shift of access over ownership.
Right.
Everything can be a subscription or a lease.
Right.
And if I have access to all of it, then, that's very far from the previous, which is own everything, no debt, all that stuff. So how does one help solve the other?
Yeah,
or are they
that's a really good
not
question.
the same?
It's not that one will solve it. You need both. They need to go hand in hand. So the criticism that I would completely agree with you on, there needs to be more single family as well in our state. The emphasis is on multifamily. So that was a policy direction from the state that basically said, you need to put this housing online. And for the cities that have limited land, the only way you can really accomplish that is with apartments, right? But that's not the full equation. So I would totally agree with you there. You got to have a path to ownership as well. The part that I am a part of is on the apartment side. That's the one I focus on. So on the single family side, anyone building single family, I will rally behind you, do it and do more of it. How they go hand in hand is when you're looking at the average median incomes. Let's say in LA, average median income is $90,000. For you to be able to buy a starter home, you basically need to clear over 200. So starter home, basically out of reach. Then when you look at your rentals, what you can actually rent, you have to make about 130, maybe 140, just to keep your percentage that goes to cost of living at a point where you're not drowning. So when you look at the average median income and the cost to rent a unit, you're now spending north of 50% of your cost of living, 60%. You can't pull it. So the idea, I think, is this. Rentals, in my perspective, should either be a potential choice, but how I like to look at it is it should be the bridge to then get to ownership. I couldn't buy a house right when I started my career. I had to rent, right? Most people have to rent for a time, and then they save their money, and then they could buy a house. I think that's the natural progression. If you're spending 70% of your income on rentals, you're not even able to save to even turn on the purchase of a house. So I think it's the component that I can be a part of. It is not the total equation. Yeah, you need more housing. In other states, you're seeing it mainly because their land situation is not the same as California.
Right.
But California needs housing.
There's a lot of land in California. It's just a matter of if anybody wants to build any further inland.
It's not even if they want. It's that they're not allowed to.
I see.
There's so much of our land. If you go do the aerial for California, there is so much untapped land. Yeah. It's insane.
Right.
You're not allowed to build on that land. So now you're talking policy change, and you need to start opening up more land to build on.
And why
building more communities?
Build on it. Why do they? I obviously I don't want people building houses in Yosemite. Like there's places where there's this natural beauty that's protected and things like that. There's also a lot of just like dirt, dude. Like nothing, rock and dirt and nothing.
100%. Okay, so I'll make the case for this, right? If you're looking at the two-party system, right? Democrats and Republicans. I would say how it works well is the conservative or the Republican typically fights for individual rights, give the power to the individual, let the individual do with it what they will. And the Democrat typically looks at, you're leaving that person behind. How do we help that person? And so when both parties are together, let's say arguing, it brings the policy somewhere in the middle. And I think you can make the argument that it's a healthy middle. In our state, we don't have that. So our state has a one-party supermajority. And so I think California is the example where you don't have the other opinion weighing in and getting you back to a balanced approach. We just don't have that here.
Do you foresee that happening at any point in your lifetime?
Yes, but a lot has to change for that to happen. I mean, my life, like Reagan was here in my lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, but again, I mean, in the future.
Well, if it could swing one way, it could swing the other, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no, but it's going to, a lot has to change. I think it has to get, I think a lot has to change.
Maybe Mikey needs to run for governor is what will need to change.
Pray for me, everybody. Yeah.
So you guys have something really exciting for you,
yes.
big milestone.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about this milestone and why it's so good for you guys, for the public, for this space.
Yeah.
And I think we could fit that in.
I love this. So this is probably the most exciting thing I'm doing right now. I've worked years at getting this online. So when I started our company, I wanted there to be an investment vehicle that people could participate in, that they could, if they wanted to have real estate be a part of their wealth build, they had access to that.
So let's just disclaimer, nothing we're going to talk about right now is financial advice.
No.
And anything that you're interested in, you've got to talk to a professional before you make a decision, or maybe you could reach out to Commune or whatever. But nothing on today's episode is to be taken as personal financial advice.
Yes, and I have a compliance officer, and I have now been well trained in what I can and can't say. Right?
Okay, perfect.
So that was one part of the business. The second part of the business was the education side, because I was given the education, which was the empowerment for me, and then I had the ability to act. So I had both education and access to opportunity. And so that was a big driver on why we spend so much time creating educational content online, is for anyone getting started. anyone who just didn't know, we wanted to equip them, whether they were going to invest with us or not. And what started happening really early on is because of the regulation on the type of offerings we had created, you had to make a pretty high income to even be allowed to invest. And then the minimum check was quite high as well.
Right.
And so there was a new regulation or a new type of offering that was created in 2017 that basically removed what's called the accredited. You no longer had to be an accredited investor. So that qualification went away. And so with our new offering, you no longer have to meet that income or net worth threshold. And then we made the minimum investment an amount that almost anyone can participate. So the whole goal with this one is if you've always wanted to invest in commercial real estate, but you've been locked out, this is potentially now an option that if it fits, you're at least allowed to make the decision. So that's what we're doing. We're doing all the same real estate that we've been doing. It's just a new audience coming in. So for example, I had two really cool things happen to me over the last 2 weeks. Number one, I took my son to Supercross. And we're sitting in the stands, and somebody I saw walking up, and I could tell they recognized me. And so he came up, I was like, Mikey, just wanted to tell you, I've been following you. I just invested in your fund, so I'm a new investor. And I was like, dude, this is cool. Like I'm now meeting people that follow me that are now doing business with us.
Right.
And then it just happened on Friday. Went out to Palm Springs, played golf with a guy who, same thing, investor of ours because he followed me. That is a really cool experience.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that one's awesome. So I do like that.
Yeah, I mean, how do you not like that? You're making money with somebody, they're appreciating all that you're putting out there, doing that.
That's right.
Will you do all your funds this way going forward? Or will you still do accredited investor only funds also?
That's a really good question. I would say I hate to make it about the dollars, but when you're doing funds, you need to bring on a certain amount of capital so that it really makes sense for the type of admin that you have to put in place. If this fund goes beyond that hurdle, I wouldn't be surprised if I only do these offerings.
Okay.
If it doesn't get past that hurdle, we'll have to make a decision. This might be the only one we do. It doesn't mean that the real estate doesn't perform. It just means that the cost that comes onto our business and the bandwidth,
right,
it just doesn't hit it. Now, from everything we're seeing, I think we're going to pass that. And I think this becomes the vehicle. I want this to become the vehicle. Right. There's nothing I would love more to go, all we do is for, the masses. I would love that.
Because it doesn't change the core of what you're trying to build and why you're building it and what it's solving and all that. It just changes how people get involved. It raises some expense a little bit, I would think, on your guys' end.
Yeah,
right?
the dynamic, we're really cutting into the weeds on this one. The dynamic is if I have an investment where the minimum investment is $500,000 and I'm raising $10 million, there's a few amount of people that I need to talk to say yes. So the output is that much.
Right.
If the minimum investment is $5,000 and we have to raise that same 10 million, it takes a lot more people and touch points to get there. And so you just need the total amount to be high enough for it to, I think, to really justify it's really the human capital. So I think it's going to, and there's nothing I want more than for this to just be the vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the real estate's the real estate. What we do day to day is nothing really has changed.
Yeah.
So,
well, before we wrap up here, I just want to ask you one more question. At the very beginning of this, you talked about loving setting goals, loving chasing things, figuring out how to be resourceful, all of this, and how you're attached to that, right? And so, beyond the horizon, I hope to inspire people and myself to just think a little further than what we naturally can see and look out beyond the horizon. So for you, what's some goals, aspirations, or something that if you're really reaching and you're really pushing the envelope of how far you really could see out there, or how big you've really thought, what's something that maybe you open up and share on here that might inspire us, and that also maybe is your kind of giving yourself that nudge of something you want to see happen or work that's beyond the horizon for you?
Okay. I could definitely give the message on on something inspirational, and I run the risk of coming off like a hypocrite, but I think it's better to just be like totally transparent.
Yeah.
This year I'm looking at this year different. Actually, every single year has been more goal-based. And what my wife and I felt like is the mission for this year is really just focus. It's like really focusing on the kind of key responsibilities and really just doing that well and trying to let go of what might be a lot of distractions. And so I don't know. I'm in uncharted territory right now. Mm-hmm. I'm at the end of this year. There's the potential that from a goal standpoint, it looks like I scaled back. I don't know. There's also the potential that if I'm really honing in on doing things well, maybe there is an increase. But I think it is good for you to know that this year is just about intention on a small amount of things, as opposed to I want to hit this goal of AUM. So take that with what you will, but that is in real time.
So it sounds like a year where you're going to say no, and you'll need to say no so you could keep your focus on.
Yeah, this is going to be a no year. 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and spending time with us and just being authentic, sharing some of the story and the things that you've got going on right now. We didn't even dive in at all to probably your newest love and passion of golf, which is your next venture.
We'll do that next.
We'll do that next. But before we leave, can I pray for you?
Please do. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity to just have this platform and have guests like Mikey on here who are willing to be transparent, boldly share your name, and the energy that he brings is so authentic and unmatched by most people. I just pray truthfully that anyone who's hearing this today, that they would be inspired to carry out their goals, their visions, and do it with you in the front. I pray that you bless Mikey and the businesses and the people that he's surrounding himself with, and the city and the things he's doing for Thousand Oaks, that you are just evidently present in this year of focus, and all the glory be to you. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming out. I think we hit the timeline.
You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing.
So I have one other question for you.
Yeah.